Then thanks first to have invited me to speak and to exchange with you today. I am very honored to be here, and we were very honored to welcome a Serbian delegation last spring in an APP center, as I'm going to present you the process. My name is Laurence Martin. I am the director of the National Association, which is promoting this specific pedagogical label. And I would like to thank the previous speakers, because it was very, very interesting, and we can make lots of links between all the interventions. And with half an hour, I will not be able to develop, but we can speak during the lunch, and during the parallel session, I will go further in practical approaches. But first of all, I have the challenge to present a general view of how we work. First of all, I'm going to present a pedagogical label which is existing in France since 30 years now, and which is recognized as a qualitative one since 10 years. It's a brand and a guideline deposited at the French National Institute, something very official and recognized. And if I had to sum up, a space awarded as an APP center is a vet place where teaching activities linked to professional key competencies, mastering, and in a wider range to European key competencies through specific approach. It's very important for us to make this precision, because we are not only vet centers. We are not here just to learn professional postures, professional competences, but to give people the opportunity to become autonomous according to their professional and personal paths. Then, since just to have a global view, in France, we have more than 200 places to welcome people, to propose this approach. And we have trained 3 million people in France. And last year, we had 33,000 people trained through this approach. Then, about APP trainers, we have a specific profile according to other vet centers. We have 2/3 of learners who are women. According to the example your director specified previously, we work a lot with women who want to come back in the professional market after stopping working since several years for kids. And it's a very interesting example, because they think they are low qualified or they don't have any competencies. That's why we work a lot with her about self-confidence. And half of these people are level 3 or under. That's why we work a lot about key competencies first. Then, if I have to present it in core principle, it's a teaching approach based on guided self-training, allowing access to European key competencies. Guided self-training is a very, very core principle for us. When people are coming for mathematics, for French, or to seek jobs, we take the opportunity of meeting them to give them the possibility to develop key competencies and transversal ones. Because what they need is not only mathematics, it's not only French, but they need to speak in public, to find information, to know how to interpret information, and so on. And when you come for a vet action, you learn these kinds of things. But it's invisible. You leave the vet center with a mathematics level or not, and whatever you have learned according to this activity, it remains invisible. And that's a big problem, because that's real needs of labor market and personal life are about key competencies and transversal ones. Then, if I have to list the strong principle of APP approach, it's based on customization and support. We will go further this afternoon about this point. Territorial anchorage. I will not tell you that we are the solution to any issues. We are working in very, very strong partnerships with all the stakeholders on a local approach. Another strong principle is to welcome diverse range of people, not only to welcome them, but to mix them. Because if you organize your VET action with, for adults, only job seekers, only engineers, only elder people, they will not learn to live together. They will not see that they are able to explain something to each other or to hear something from each other and so on. Then for us, mixity during VET actions is very, very important. We have also another challenge to face, especially in France, I don't know here how it works, is about funding sources, to find financial means. Because it's not very difficult when you're looking for funding about upper level VET actions. If you want to train engineers, if you want to train high qualified people, it's rather easy to find financial means. But for key competencies, for transversal skills, it's rather difficult in France because these people are not, excuse me for the term, bankable. You know, you don't. In France, we are not sufficiently aware of this challenge that these people are very important to train, not only for them, not only for their partners, but also for the economy. And then another core principle for APP approach, of course, is very linked to European key competencies. I will go further on it later. And another point, APP approach is based on a very, very strong network. Not only with partners, but between APP centers, because we are very, very diverse. Every VET center can ask for this label. And then we have very, very different VET centers who are working together through this label. Then, this APP label qualified a learning organization focused on the individual and his project. I insist on his project because he can come to us because job centers ask him to come. He can come to us because social institutions ask him to come. Then when we meet them first time, they are not always very happy to be there. They are not always volunteer to focus on their project. Then we have to change their mind and just focus on what they want by themselves. Because about key competencies and transversal ones, you will have the same if you come to find job or if you come to help your kids about homeworks and so on. Then you have to focus on their own project and then you come back to the other one. That's a specific pedagogical approach based on coach self-learning. I'm going to further go this point further. And we want to give an immediate answer. When someone is coming to APP Center, is most of the time a big effort to come to us. And sometimes they come because their neighbor came and succeed in his professional job searching, I think I can say so. And then they come because they hear about APP Center. And they will come once, just to see and to have information. And we have to be able to give an immediate answer, not to tell them, okay, if you want to learn French, come back in 3 months, and perhaps we will be able to put you in a group with people like you, and then you stay. You are obliged to stay 3 months and so on. That's not possible, because people have their own lives, people have their own needs, and when we're going to speak about personalization, it's very important because you gain time, you gain money, and so do they. Then it's very important for every stakeholders to be able to adapt ourselves. We are the professionals. They are not. Then we have to be expert on adaptation. They don't have. They will, with transversal competence, at least then. And it's a local solution. It's very important to be as nearest as possible to people according to where they live, where they work, because they will not be able, if they are low qualified and not very sure of themselves, to make several kilometers to go in another place and so on. We have to adapt ourselves about it also. Then, who's coming in APP centers? Then we support people in accomplishing their own projects, and then they can come for very, very, very different projects. Sometimes to find jobs, sometimes to anticipate a qualifying vet action. In France, when you want to get qualified, sometimes the level is too high to get directly to a qualifying vet action for some people. And in France, you have the possibility to have a previous step to acquire and develop and then validate key competencies. They can come to prepare an exam, a diploma, and so on. But what they need really is to strengthen and develop key competencies, but almost to recover self-confidence in their abilities. I don't know how it works here, but in France, about vulnerable people, we speak of low qualified, job seekers, people who don't know how to read. We just qualify them by what they don't have. But these people are qualified. They don't know it, and the system doesn't allow them to know it. In APP centers, the first time they come, we show them that they are skilled, that they are qualified. Even if it's not perfect, we are here to develop it, to complete it, but it's very important to show people that they are all qualified. If you're not, you're dead. Sorry, everybody is qualified. Then, I will not list again European key competencies, but the most important for us is to show and to remind economic stakeholders also that European key competences are not only professional ones and economic ones. When you read the definition, they are about personal development, social cohesion, and employability in a knowledge society. It's really challenging, but that's the way it's written. Then we have to remind it, because if you have the competencies to develop yourself, to be an active citizen, and then you will have a very efficient worker. But that's not the only aim of training in APP centers. And in France, since 3 years now, social partners, that is to say employers' organizations and trade unions, have created a specific national recognized certification for basic professional skills, which name is Certificat CLEA. And this CLEA certificate represents a real innovation of the previous VET reform about basic skills assessment and validation, because it's the first nationwide and cross-sectoral certification created by social partners and written in labor code. If someone in France asked to get this certificate, it will be treated as a priority by a financial institution and by vet centers. The interest of this certificate is that it is global and generic. Then if you have CLEA certificates, you can prove your employers, the job centers, and yourself that you have the key competencies to be able to get a vet qualification, to get an employee, to get a job, and so on. Then it's very, very important for us. Another point, it cannot be refused if someone uses his personal vet account, because we have this kind of account in France, to get this certificate. Then it's a good first step. When you have some people who are coming to you, you cannot propose them a very, very long process to get a certificate or this kind of things. Then with CLEA certificate, you can block what they have, validate as a generic competencies before proposing something else. And it's very motivating for people, because when you meet first during clear certificate of process, I also say, when you first met, you make the list and you exchange with people to know what competencies they already have. You don't list what they don't have, as we used to do in France, sincerely. We say, you come to us, then we make, according to this list, we will see which competencies you already have. And then we're going to propose VET actions to complete and get the certificate. It's very important for us because, as you see, no surprise about competencies, quick competencies, of course, fortunately, but it's a real opportunity also for people who have a big problem with French, because we have the possibility to validate the other fields without French. In APP centers, we have created specific tools by oral approaches, by drawing, and by specific coaching to validate the other fields of competencies as, without the French communication. Why? Because in France, when you are not able to write or to read, you have developed so many other competencies, and especially transversal ones, to work, to team building, to memorize, to how could I say that in English? To work in group or independently, and then you develop very lots of different competencies which are invisible in classic French process. Because in France, before, when you don't have French communication, you cannot do anything else. You are stopped. And these kind of people are very discouraged, and they don't come back to the centers, and they become invisible. And then we have a big problem to make them come back to us. And with Clear Certificate, it was a really great opportunity to do so, because we could validate other competencies, and then they were ready to learn how to read and to write French, because they know they have competencies. Then just to give you the general process through this presentation, when you want to get the CLEAR certificate, you have first 6 hours for a prior learning assessment. During 1 hour, you will speak with a VET expert, but in APP Center, people don't feel that they are doing something else than speaking. But for the VET expert, according to the question, according to what they asked and so on, they can make a first list of competencies people should have. And after, we organize collective session with very mixed learners and to make them act and then use several competencies. We don't make a test in French, and test in mathematics, and one test in digital competencies, not at all. We organize a professional situation where they have to face a real professional situation all together. There are 4 or 5, and then the trainers in APP centers is not a classic trainers. He is an enabler or a facilitator. He's just observing and see which one is speaking, which one is going on the computer to have the information, which one is calculating, and so on. And during 4 hours, people are also forgetting. They are just tested because they live the situation. And then after these 4 hours, for the trainers, we have a great visibility of which competencies they have to develop or not. And we check during 1 hour with them to make a focus and say, wow, very impressive, because according to computer using, you were just perfect. Then the third field, you have it. Congratulations. And about French, you were not so comfortable, but that's not a problem, because you speak in public, and then you were very challenging with the other people. It was really great. And so we built this visibility of competencies. And then this kind of people, when you show them that they just have several fields to get, and when they see how we consider them as a member of a team. There's not the trainer, the learners, not at all. We have facilitators on one side, and we have stakeholders by the other side. And when people speak about APP process, it's very interesting because they speak as a team. And they say, also, me also, I learned something to my colleague. They say colleague, not trainers. Because I know lots of things about the history of the city. I knew lots of things about football. And then he learns a lot with me. And that's right. That's right. And when you change the view you have in this relationship, you make a real progress about personal implication of people and the way they learn. And then, as you see, it's a very long process according to normal hours for controlling and positioning. 6 hours. But with these 6 hours, some people are able to validate all the fields and then get directly the certificate. And that's very interesting because we propose it to everybody. And sometimes we are very surprised because that's not only low qualified people who ask for a clear certificate. Sometimes it's someone which is doing the same jobs since 20 years and is afraid to have lost key competencies. And when you want to change jobs, you want to be sure. Then for us, it was very important not to limit clear certificate to low qualified people. Then here you have the process. Okay. Then a real diploma with a celebration. It's very important. And it's very interesting to see that people are very proud of it. And so in APP centers, you have some people who are knocking at the door without any financial means or any how can I say that? Other stakeholders, because they meet their neighbor, which was making a celebration at home about clear certificate. And say, it seems very, very good, and he is very self-confident, can I try? And so, and it's really working for invisible people. Then, if I had to sum up about this clear certificate, the added value of this skill of validation is to avoid stigma and bring back confidence in personal skills. It's available for all without any reference to level. It's a nationwide and cross-sectoral acknowledgement. It represents a strong basis to go further and a benchmark for employers and recruiters. In some regions in France, they have decided to propose clear certificate to each people who asked for a qualification, to be sure to secure their finance and their time. Because sometimes in France, when you propose a qualification, people are not ready for that. And then they stop before the end, and they are totally discouraged. They will not come back. Then if you put at the first step clear certificate, everybody is sure to make the good choice at the good moment. Then you have the link to the website, our communication. It's very important for us to have a positive approach of vet actions, as it was already said, because people can be proud and be positive about the fact to go back to training without going back to, school, because they are waiting for something else about this. Another project specific to APP centers and in complement to clear certificate, which is about professional key competencies. Since the beginning, we always make the link with key competencies and now to European key competencies. Because for us, we have to train people to be citizens before being workers. Then it's about personal development and access to employment. And it's about social inclusion and active citizenship development. As we see in Europe, it's a very, very big challenge nowadays. For us, APP values prevail in relation to practices, postures, and pedagogical approaches, which underpin the 8 key competencies. I will come back on it during the parallel session. I make some communication and teasing. And then we spoke about the possibility to propose open badges. And for vulnerable people, it's very, very efficient because it's not classic. It looks like, especially for young people, what they used to see in their computer, and it's not something official, very strict, very organized. How can I say that? These open badges are their own property. They decide what they put on it. Because open badges, it's just a picture. And when you click on it, then you have all the proofs of what people are able to do, according to the skill, to the competencies which is on it. When you see learning to learn, for us in APP approach, as you can notice, is the most important competence. Because when you speak about learning to learn in France, you have all the transversal competences which are linked together. Learning to learn is the ability in France to organize my transversal competencies in a personal project. Not only to know to use this competence in this situation, but to be able to use it whenever I need to. And these open badges are very important for people because we will learn them how to identify competencies they use or they need. Whatever is the situation, because of course we learn during vet actions, but we learn every day, during every situation. And then if we learn people to analyze what they did and to formalize it as a competence, they are more and more self-confident, of course, but then they are able to speak about it with the job centers. They are able to speak about it with their employers, and they want to get trained and they want to get involved because they understand that they are skilled and that they can progress. Then open badges is very, very useful for this approach. We'll come back after. Then, when you come in a classical vet center, what is visible? Mathematics, French, preparing a recruitment, preparing a specific action according to my work and so on. But it's really too bad not to see all the other competencies you use. Then our role in APP centers and approach is to make it visible. Then we had to make a choice because, as you know, in France and in Europe, of course, we speak about soft skills, transversal skills, and so on, and we don't have a specific list on transversal skills because they are transversal, they are very diverse, and then we make our own choice to define these skills. Then, for us, we concentrate on TICs, about cooperation, acting with methods, being creative, thinking logically, thinking critically, and communication. It was not just like this one day, I woke up and said, we will say, no. We study and analyze what happens in our APP network during 3 years, with a specific pedagogical researcher, which is analyzing how does it work, pedagogical approach in APP centers. What do we learn? How do we speak about it? And according to this study, and according to several studying groups about it, we defined these 6 transversal skills. Why? Because they are anonymously considered as necessary to face every personal and professional situation, and especially solving problems. And they are especially mobilized during coached self-training sessions. When you arrive in APP center, people all do by themselves. They are coached, they are never alone, but they all do by themselves. Since the first meeting with their facilitator, they will have everything in their hands. They will choose, we will help them to make the good choice and so on, but they will be directly concerned. And that's why transversal skills are just necessary to do so. And in France, there is a jump center, national jump center made an inquiry, and we see that for employers, finally, for professional competencies, they know where to go, they know how to learn. That's okay, that's not a problem. But what they want to know is to identify, when I meet someone for the first time, just 1 hour, how can I know if he's able to adapt himself, to be creative, to get trained, to change from one job to another? I don't have any visibility about it. According to open badges we created, we created also an official certification of transversal skills through APP approach. Then now, in France, you can propose this certification to make visible the capacity of people to be autonomous. Of course, it's not a binary certificate. I know, I don't know. It's with levels, and then people and stakeholders can see it. I have yes. No. Then just to finish, then you can find our open badges on Apprenant Agile network, and up, and I think, then thanks a lot. I couldn't go further, but I can ask your question.